4 points per game. But there's a question. Sophomore slump or surge? Because there are people out there who believe in a sophomore slump. If I can borrow a logical fallacy, that's one of my favorites. Many people say it's not true and it's a myth. I happen to be one of those people. But if we're just looking at how we think things will go, because sometimes the circumstance dictates that, starting with CJ Stroud, do you see a slump or a surge?
I think we're more on the surge end of things for C.J. Stroud. Now, it's amazing to think that he could get even better after what we saw from him in his rookie season. And look, I don't know that his yardage totals necessarily go up a ton. He was over 4,000 yards last year, but we talk about him being among the league leaders in air yards per attempt. So they were picking up yards in chunks. And for as good as they were with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, they add somebody in Stephon Diggs, who might not be the receiver he once was, but is still a very talented player. They also add Joe Mixon, who can provide some pass-catching ability out of the backfield as well. So while the yardage totals might take a slight uptick, I think the touchdown upside gets even higher in an offense that really was, I think, way ahead of where we expected them to be last year.
Stroud, it's a difficult job, though, of trying to feed all three of those guys and keep them all happy. Because we know Diggs won't complain if things don't go.
Oh, no, of course not.
But also, as long as they're scoring points, then everybody's going to be happy. Everybody was the exact opposite of happy in Carolina last year. The number 1 overall pick struggled, as did the whole team. But does Bryce Young have a slump or a surge in year 2?
I think he has a surge. And when I say that now, I mean, I think he has top 15 fantasy quarterback upside because of Dave Canales. I spoke about him earlier when I said I like Deontay Johnson, but Canales was the QB coach for Geno Smith's breakout season. He was the OC last year for Baker Mayfield's resurgent year. He is kind of getting a reputation as being a bit of a quarterback whisperer. And what I really love is this year the Panthers revamped their O-line. They added to their wide receiver room. They have a new wide receiver 1 in Deontay Johnson. They added to the running back room. I think there is a chance that we look back on Bryce Young's rookie year, just like we do Trevor Lawrence's. Like, what was this guy supposed to do? He had not a lot of help around him. I think this is the first year we'll really get to judge him.
I do like a lot of the Panthers sort of as late-round upside guys, right? I don't think they're going to be lights out this year, but they're going to be a lot better than they were last year.
Improvement for the offense means improvement for fantasy players all across the board. We'll leave the quarterbacks, get to a running back now, because Jamir Gibbs burst onto the scene when he had the opportunity. Marcus, do you feel it's a slump or a surge?
I think it's a surge for Jamir Gibbs. Now, I don't think he necessarily rockets up and becomes a top 5 running back necessarily. I'm a little bit concerned about where he's being drafted. But we saw late in the season, he really took over the lead in snap share in this offense. Then the back half of the year, he out-snapped David Montgomery there. The concern was that the touches ended up about even between the two of them. Now, they both caught passes. They both ran the football. I think he's going to have a better year than he did as a rookie. The problem is, I don't know that it's going to be so much better that I'm willing to take him at RB6 into the first round where he's going right now.
Yeah, about half of their goal line carries in the second half of the year went to Jamir Gibbs. If that trend continues into the season this year, the upside is through the roof.
Let's go to a second-year wide receiver who was really, really good through stretches, especially when they did not have their one, and that is Jordan Addison. Slump or surge?
I think it's going to be a slump, unfortunately, because they do have their one back now. And when Justin Jefferson is out there, he is such a target hog. Last season, Jordan Addison had less than a 15% target share when Justin Jefferson was out there. He averaged less than 11 fantasy points per game in games without Kirk Cousins. The 10 touchdowns really elevated him. I mean, less than 70 yards in all but 4 games last year. I'm not one to bank on double-digit touchdowns again. So with the change of quarterback, with Jefferson being back, I'm going to let someone else in my league draft Jordan Addison.
Yeah, the touchdown upside is not quite there with Jordan Addison and Sam Darnold, but I do think at least for the first half of the year with no TJ Hawkinson, maybe he can get a little bit of extra volume. When Hawkinson comes back, then I think it's questionable.
And you see how they phrased all of those things? It wasn't that it's not that Jordan Addison's not trying hard anymore because he's in his second year. The circumstances around the player have changed, which creates different outcomes for those particular players.